We are here in Ayala Museum in the diorama exhibit that many of us saw on field trips in grade school. The diorama's got something of a refresh this year when this scene, Rizal's execution, was made into a virtual reality film. It's just one example of how museums are trying to make more people engage with the art, culture, history, and science inside their once intimidating walls, such as, and we'll talk about this later, a night at the museum murder mystery experience. But first, virtual reality. The go signal came from Ayala Museum director Mariles Gustilo, and the VR film was produced by Iba Bernardo. Mariles, Iba, thank you very much for this not exactly virtual tour. Mariles, how did you first think of a virtual reality project?
Actually, we've always been trying to explore ways to make the dioramas come alive. Our first flirtation was with augmented reality. It was a small project.
You would hold your
and you put your
gadget
iPhone there, and then something would happen. The cedulas will fly and that sort of thing. But then our president, who's a good friend of Iba, told me about what Iba's doing with this I Am Cardboard product and virtual reality. And so that started the conversation going. Our Chief of Information Officer, Erwin Locsin, then decided to meet up with Iba to try and understand the machinations of doing something like this. And it sort of just took off from there. Then we met the director, Marco, who had an excellent story, which was, why don't we present being in the execution from 3 vantage points, which I thought was fascinating because then it makes you able to walk in the shoes of someone else.
Who thought of choosing the execution scene?
Well, we sort of agreed on that because also June is the birth month of Jose Rizal. We would not be able to do it for all dioramas at one go. So this seemed like the iconic way to start something like this. And then, of course, we had Ambet Ocampo consult with us. So it sort of just took off from there. The idea was really, how do you use this fabulous technology to contemporize what has been a part of Filipino lives for many years? So we got to hand it over to
Iba, when they came to you, what did they come to you with, and how did it develop from there?
Well, actually, like Mariles said, we've been doing this for quite a while, the whole VR thing. And when we first started this journey, this virtual reality journey, one of the first people I talked to was Ruel Maranan.
Mariles's boss.
Yeah, president of Ayala Foundation.
He had just come into the
foundation
then, and we had just started, and then just kind of saying, hey, this is pretty cool, maybe there's something we can do. That was about 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
But, as things progressed, we got better at it. We had flown all over the world shooting these experiences, and it just kind of aligned. And then one day, Erwin met up with us, and he goes, hey, let's see what we can do. And it was really a collaborative thing because we couldn't do this on our own. There were just so many things that, the tech side, fine, but having Ambeth there, having Erwin, Mariles, and all of the guidance from with AFI, the Ayala Foundation, and the support to make this happen was pretty awesome.
What was the biggest challenge?
A lot. One, AFI is
Ayala Foundation.
The Ayala Foundation. They're a great team, but they're not the money-making Ayala groups, right? And so this was a passion project for both sides. I sat down with my team and I said, you know what? This is something I want because this is a part of my youth, right? This is something. And my director said, no matter what happens, we're going to do this. So that's the first thing.
You must have been happy to hear that.
Of course.
Whatever happens,
yes.
Short of budget.
That's what passion is for.
And so that was one of the key challenges, right? Making the most of the resources, because it's not an easy feat. We really started working on it maybe 5 months before we launched.
Yes,
no?
yes.
And we had everything from pyrotechnics, emergency services supplied by the Ayala Group. We had 600 meals that we had to prepare, right? This was a massive full shoot.
Yeah.
That was a major challenge, and getting everyone together to organize and work on it. But I guess these are normal production suits, but from a VR perspective, where you can't hide.
Yes.
You know, everything is captured. It's very challenging.
And so now visitors can come here, wear this,
Yes.
and see the execution from 3 vantage points.
Yes.
Was that a difficult challenge, shooting it from 3 vantage points?
Yes. So it's kind of like, I'm dating myself, but you're like Groundhog's Day meets Vantage Point, right? You're shooting the same thing over and over and over again. So we did.
I had thought Rashomon, but I prefer Groundhog Day.
And making sure that everything is in the same spot. And we're looking at around 40 people, 50 people.
Yeah.
And doing the same thing over and over again is one of the biggest challenges.
So you have to shoot it 3 times, the same action.
We had to shoot it 3 times 4. So we did 4 takes each in the hot sun, just over and over and over again. And then we edited that. It's about 6 weeks of post to watch every single one and make sure that it syncs.
Mariles, he's talked about how difficult this is. Will you be doing more diorama scenes in virtual reality?
Yes, we plan to. Yeah, I mean, I think we've decided on the next 2. We're not going to do everything. Maybe just the iconic historical moments, and I think that is something that we're looking forward to, because then people know that you're using again technology to get into the heart of the issue. Like I think we'll be doing Andres Bonifacio, and that's important because that's another aspect of our history that needs to be understood, or at least empathy. You know, this thing of this technology allows you to empathize, and if you can empathize, then maybe you can begin to think more critically, and so forth and so on, and it will snowball from there. So we're very excited, and we're so glad. I mean, we know how hard it has been production-wise. I mean, every single person there is a volunteer in the cast. We shot this in a property that belongs to the Ayala group. I mean, everybody sort of pitched in, and I think there were lessons to be learned. We will be better at it the next time. But I think at the end result, our measure for success is, did it connect? Did it get people to start thinking? That's good.
You had an experience, or you witnessed an experience of it connecting very strongly with a young girl.
Yes, actually, so we're kind of, syempre, one of the reasons we create is because we want to see people experience it. That's the, for us, so
motivation.
We would lurk around the corner, you know, just kind of watching people. So there's 3 perspectives, and that, from a technical standpoint, was what we came up with earlier on. But when we brought in Lay Reyes, who's like the head of Mullen, this brilliant writer.
You're a successor.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, correct. Yes.
From your advertising life.
Yes.
And so Lay is awesome. So
Yes.
she donated time
Yes, she
to
did.
create this. That's when things started coming up with like just deeper meaning, each perspective. So the bystander, that's like us on Facebook and social media. Like, angry, you know, trolling, because you're detached, right? And then you could be the firing squad, one of the Filipino soldiers, and you're like, in the diorama, it's like good and bad, no? Well, bad, but in reality, what drove them? What made these normal people do bad things, right? And then finally, you're Jose Rizal, and it asks the question, was his sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice, worth it? But there was a girl who was watching it, and she only did the 2 because she refused to be shot. She knew what was coming. It was probably her first VR experience ever, and she just freaked out. There are other people that we saw that had tears. You know, I mean, not like ooh, but like they were visibly moved by the experience, and that's, for me, that's incredible. That just makes it worthwhile.
What part of recreating this or reinterpreting this was the most challenging or the most fun? Aside from the dog, of course.
The most challenging part is shooting Rizal. I mean, like, not shooting in 360, because, like, It's like we were chatting about earlier. It's like Groundhog's Day, right? It's over and over and over again from multiple perspectives. So for Rizal, he got shot 12 times, no, including the trailer, 14 times in one day. We had to have multiple suits for him. We had to have multiple, I mean, and these little things were exploding all the time, right? So that for me was the most challenging part. Also the scariest. We had never worked with pyrotechnics before. The most fun? Just everything was fun. I mean, we recreated everything. We made the posts, we had the costumes, we had the dog. Honestly, it was just everything about this was incredibly fun.
Mariles,
Yeah,
virtual reality was far from your mind
that's
when you
right.
took when you took this job.
Yes.
I love the story you tell about, was it your first day or one of your first days here and you're walking into
Yeah.
the museum?
Yes.
What hit you then?
I was walking in our main entrance. You've seen the fountain there. And I was walking in, and I overheard a gentleman approach our security. And he said, "Ano nandyan sa loob?" I stood there and I told myself, wow. I mean, you sort of have your job cut out for you.
What did you get into?
Exactly, what did I get into? And it also, I think, captured in a nutshell the challenge. I mean, how do you make a museum familiar? I'm just saying familiar. I'm not even saying that they have to love it deeply, but it's just a familiar destination. And so that's what I think was the first not shock, but rude awakening.
Was it day one?
No, it was probably a few weeks into the job, wherein what I do in any new job is I sort of just watch. I don't really do anything. I watch the staff. I watch how they operate. I watch the people that interface.
You'd actually come from the advertising industry.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
And you bring, of course, you bring that here.
Yes.
If you were to open that nutshell that you were talking about,
Yes.
what was the situation that you saw, not just in terms of Ayala Museum, but maybe museums in general in this country?
Yes, I think people don't understand it. I don't think it's because they don't like it. I think it's they don't know what they're missing, because we're not a museum-going country. We don't have that heritage. I also think it's because they think, oh, pangmayaman lang yan, or elitista, or they'll feel stupid or inadequate. There's not such a welcoming atmosphere, and I think that's also one of the reasons probably I was hired, because audience development is really the way of the world for art in general. I mean, I think the world has realized now we're missing out. I mean, the world will be missing out if the greater population is not given access to all these beautiful things. I mean, art is about people. It tells us about our heritage, the way we think. Art is always a response to the time when it was created. So it tells a whole lot of things, but I think people don't realize that. So I thought, maybe if I can just get them to sort of get interested, spark the interest, and possibly share the joy I get from the art that I'm exposed to.
What were the first baby steps that you took to begin to shift to that, or broaden the job?
Hanging banners in the front of the facade of our building was...
That's a common sight.
And then, and the thing is, we are very lucky that our museum is located in the central business district, in the middle of a mall. And that's why it's shocking when people say, ano yan, no? So I said, maybe banners. I mean, it's not a new idea, Coco. You go abroad, you see all the banners. Our signage, we put our name in the middle of our fountain, so that, because right now, before it used to be a bit...
it's a bit obscure.
Obscure,
yeah.
Because it was, but this one, if you put it in the middle of the fountain, eye level, then these are very they're not it's not rocket science, really. It's just because that's the way I think. I mean, I worked in many places where I remember when I was in New York, I worked in publishing, and I was told, put the main titles in the eye level of a bookshop.
When did you realize it had begun to click?
Okay. To me, this was the most exciting part. We decided on the side of audience development to develop what I call branding icons. You know, little things that define what the museum is. So we established a thing called Inspire Every Day, which is, you know, we're not a freak museum. You have to pay to come here. So we decided, okay, it will be a free day. It's called Inspire Every Day. All the galleries will be open. We had music, we had performances. It was just one fun day in the museum. And then I saw a line around the museum. It rained in the afternoon and there were still people lining up. And it was the most rewarding experience. It was a physical manifestation that everything that we had been trying actually clicks.
When we talked, I was particularly interested in your night at the museum experiment.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. The challenge was what will be the few things that will define the museum. So the idea is to have a fun experience here. So the young people in the museum says, why don't we do something on Halloween? And the concept was Midnight Museum. No? And the idea was we would open late until 12 o'clock, make the galleries all available again, but work something into the situation so that there is an interesting way to interface with the art that's in the galleries. So we did many things, but the one that was most interesting was what we did last year, where we tied up with Mystery Manila. The idea was there was a mystery that had to be solved, and all the cues were in the galleries.
You had to kill off your curator to do that.
Yeah,
right?
the idea was to kill off, kunyari we killed off a curator, and you would get the hints as to who in the staff actually did the crime. So it was, you know, it was a typical Agatha Christie. There are hints, there's a profile of each person, and then they were all walking around also. So people were sort of like had to figure out. And at the end, over almost 1,000 people came, 800 people came to solve this, and they came in groups.
So Night at the Museum, I would guess, was the millennial crowd,
Yes.
20-year-olds, 30-year-olds.
Yeah.
You did a version for young kids at
we
Easter.
did. Yes, we did.
What was that like?
That was nice because what we did was it was like a treasure hunt mystery, and they had to familiarize themselves with the dioramas. And the thing is, what's interesting about the dioramas, even the people who created it, there are sort of inside jokes in each of the dioramas. I mean, they were done by artists, it was designed by artists, done by paete carvers. So there are little things like there's a little dog scampering here, or somebody is in the toilet in the back of the, you know, so it's, and we realized that children notice those things.
You mentioned a while ago that you're lucky that you're on a main street, that you're in part of a mall, but it also puts your challenge right in front of your eyes.
Yeah. My competition, because of my own personal training, my competition is not another museum. My competition are the malls, the restaurants, the movie houses. Because at the end, I assume every individual who walks by this museum has, say, 250 pesos to blow on something, to blow on a leisure activity. How do I get them to spend it on us? I'm not saying every day, maybe once a quarter, and they have very modest ambitions, no? But that's the key. How do you make yourself as fascinating an experience but not competitive? It's just another option for people, so that they come by. Because sayang the location if that doesn't happen. So that's a challenge, because sometimes they'll spend the $250 on Starbucks. So how do you, or they'll go to a movie, or they'll buy a T-shirt in a shop.
So I wanted to talk to you because we had heard about the VR.
Yeah.
And I thought there would be a lot of high-tech things that you're developing, working on, whether you could tell them about us completely or not.
Yeah.
Tell us about them completely or
Yeah.
not. But it's not all about high technology. It doesn't need to be, right?
No. A lot of it is really a big idea. It's about programming. It's to me, the technology is in the service of helping me get people turned on about art and culture, and I will use it if I understand it. If I have partners who will use it effectively, like help us use it effectively, like what's happening now, no, with the Ayala diorama VR experience. But the idea, there's a bigger thing we believe in this museum, which is the joy and wonder of art and culture. I will use anything that will make that happen. You know, we partnered, say, a few weeks ago, I think, with Instituto Cervantes, and they brought an expert on Picasso. Not everybody will ever get to see a Picasso, but if you make that available, yeah, why not? Or music, for example, our partnership with Manila Symphony, which is now as long as I've been here.
Which my wife thanks you for.
You know, it's rush hour. It's not. You don't have to dress up to come to the concerts, but you get to hear music, and even they have managed to work their programming to address the same objective. They mash up things. They play
Bach and the Beatles.
Yes, so they combine so that people understand that the roots of the Beatles come from Bach, for example. So it's this very interesting way of presenting art. So it's not dead, you know.
You talked about the joy and the wonder.
Yes,
and
yes.
you have words like that. You think of the kids.
Yeah.
Maybe more than us. You were telling me about what your boss experienced during the last Inspired Day.
Yes.
What is that?
He was waiting. He said he was standing outside watching all these early birds coming into the museum last Saturday. And then he thought it was so charming. He saw a little boy dragging his mother into the museum, saying, "We're going to be late. We're going to be late." And for me, and for him too, it became very evident that these are the people that we want to talk to. Not that the older ones are not important. I mean, people like myself, we already have an inherent love for art and culture, but we need to instill it in the youth so that they begin to think it's as accessible as a movie or as a music that you download or you stream on your iPhone.
Marilas Gusilo, thank you again for this tour.
Yeah, thanks also. And tell the whole world to come and visit not just my museum, but the museums all over the Philippines.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.